All right, it's July 7th, 2026. I just finished recording, basically up to priming the tie downs for the main spar. Now this is gonna be the start of the video on assembling the rear spar. So I'll show you what we gotta do. The first step here is pretty simple. It's just to deburr some stuff. Basically, here's the rear spar that we'll be working on, this piece right here. So we have to deburr that, these spar end enforcements where the aileron hinges will attach. Just do all the edges on those. So I'm gonna maybe use a Dremel tool, maybe just some Scotch-Brite, or maybe the grinder, we'll see, but just kind of clean up the edges on all those first. All right, here's where we're at. The edges of the rear spars and basically reinforcement brackets for the ailerons and whatnot are done. Deburred is what I mean. These are reinforcements for the rear spar. And for the 7, they need to have a little section taken out that they show on the plans here. So I went ahead and marked up those measurements. And so we're gonna take this to the bandsaw, cut the hashed area out. Then I'm probably gonna put it on here and trace for these ones so I don't have to measure twice, worry about them not lining up. Then once they're riveted, we could grind them to make them exactly perfect, but this will be a good starting point. Then I'll see if I can trace them onto this. So that's kind of the next step. All right, I've got the first two, the reinforcements, cut and took them to the grinding wheel, smoothed everything out, and they are pretty much perfect. So that turned out good. I'm just gonna go ahead and probably Cleco these on like that. And then I'll trace the backside, the area that has to be cut out. And then cut that with the bandsaw, take it to the grinder, and then we'll be on to the next step. Okay, I got the reinforcements for the spars cut out properly and grinded. Couldn't be happier with how they turned out. They both look really good. So the next step is gonna be installing the spar end reinforcement plates. There's one there, and then there's one for the aileron hinge. Actually, they're both, I guess, aileron hinge reinforcement plates. So it tells you this one basically sits against the edge of the spar. The one over here has a measurement from the edge of the spar over to the edge of it. So that's 15 3/4. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. All right, so what we've got here, this is the right rear spar. Pictured here is the left, but we're working on the right rear right now. This is the root, that's the tip. There's two, basically where the ailerons are gonna go, reinforcements that we just match drilled through. So this one you basically align with the edge. This one is measured 50 3/4 inch from the tip. So that one's done. The right side, I'm gonna work on the left while Dad deburrs this. And then we got a lot more holes to drill and we'll kind of see what the next steps are. All right, we've got them all drilled. The aileron brackets for the left and right rear spar. The next step is he's deburring. I'm gonna work on this middle aileron, I guess, reinforcement, spar reinforcement. It needs to have a hole taken out of it. And I think it's for where the aileron push rod goes, but you can see that hole. It needs to be taken out. I'm gonna trace it and then see how far I can get with a unibit, make a few different holes, and then probably take it and use a die grinder or Dremel tool to kind of finish it up. All right, so I marked up a few holes with the Unibit, and then I I started with a Dremel tool and just like a sanding disc. It absolutely destroys them. I was kind of expecting that though. But then I figured out, I don't know if that's actually the right tool. I've got these carbide bits, and so I put it into my die grinder. This is a carbide bit set, and that worked perfect. I was able to have good control, get it perfectly round out. I'm gonna take that one off, have Dad deburr it, and I'll work on the next one. All right, these things turned out real nice. They're done on both spars. Now we are going through and final size drilling all the holes. So basically number 40 here, number 30 here. Some of this stuff will need to be countersunk. I believe some stuff on this thick stuff, and then I'm imagining the ends have to be dimpled. But for now, we got to final size drill everything, then deburr it, then we can get into the countersinking. All the holes are final size drilled. The next step is to do some dimpling. On the end here of the rear spar, the tip of it, there's 4 rivets that need to be dimpled in the spar. I wanted to stop briefly here and make a note on this. I made a mistake when I was doing this with dimpling the spar as well as the spar end reinforcement. Neither of those are supposed to be dimpled in that location. What you're actually supposed to do is countersink W707F, which is the spar end reinforcement, that little square that attaches to the spar. And that way you can stick a rivet through and you won't need to dimple the spar or the W712R rib that the rivet goes through. I dimpled all 3 of those later on as I assembled the wing, and I called Vans. They said it was okay, but not exactly the proper way to do it. Check the instructions and make sure you're clear on that. And there are these 4 right here. So the far 4 need to be dimpled. And I've got to figure out if it's both these pieces that need to be dimpled or just the spar. It wouldn't really make a ton of sense if it was just the spar, but I'm going to figure that out. Other than that, the top and bottom flange have to be dimpled, so Dad's going to work on that now. And then I believe there's some countersinking that has to be done on the spar reinforcements. All right, we got these all prepped up to prime. They're dimpled all along both sides. I'm gonna prime these and then we'll be ready to rivet them. Okay, it is July 9th, 2026. Everything's dried for the 2 rear spars and all the components that'll attach to them. Big screw up on my part. The dimpler slipped and I put a dimple, basically a hole through this rear spar where it's not supposed to go. So I ordered a new right rear spar last night. Won't be able to do that until probably 2 weeks from now. I'm gonna go ahead and rivet the left. All these components to the right will stay, they're fine. It's just the spars. So I ordered a new one. Once that comes in say a week or 2, I'll install that or put it together. I'm not gonna make a video on it. I'm just gonna record doing the left side. The right's the opposite, just for the right. So that's where we're at today. We're doing the left side, basically the reinforcement and some of these doubler plates and stuff. Rivet that all on and then see what's next. There's a few holes that the plans talk about that will attach ribs and stuff that we can't rivet through. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay out all the pieces and then mark out where those holes are. All right, I know this kind of looks like a disaster, but I've got all the areas taped off that we cannot rivet at this time. I'm a little confused on this end piece. I'm just waiting to rivet it because there will be an aileron hinge bracket and another rib, and I'm trying to kind of figure out which holes they go in. So there's 2 rows of holes underneath here that I'm waiting on. I know for sure one of the 2 you have to wait, but I'm just gonna wait on both for now. All these are all taped off where they're supposed to be. These are where ribs are gonna go. More ribs here. These 2 pieces are any of the horizontal tapes. So now I'm going through and I'm gonna rivet these 3 pieces on with the holes that are open. All right, that completes the left spar. I've got all the rivets in. And that piece is done for now. Obviously, it'll have a lot more on it later on, but for the time being, we're moving on to the wing ribs. That'll be the next video. Like I said, I'll do the right spar. I'm not gonna record it. It's the same thing as the left, but I'll get that done and when that part comes in. And other than that, we're moving on to getting the ribs ready.